Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. First things first, I would like to say, last video I did some editing. I kind of used the editor, did some jump cuts, whatever. Now I'd like to say, I definitely didn't do the best job. For a first attempt, I'd give myself like a 6 out of 10 because I had no idea what I was doing. But definitely I needed to lessen the amount of jump cuts, and I think towards the end of the video, it actually was a lot better than at the beginning of the video. Now, I would like to say what I'm going to do for the future, because I feel like I saw a few comments and I definitely agree with them. It kind of ruins the conversational aesthetic and vibe that I'm going for with my videos. I'm not going for big production, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to remove the very long pauses, so like the 10 seconds where I'm going, like that, or I can't remember what I'm saying, or I repeat myself, something like that, but I'm not going to remove the uhs and buts in my general speech, because I feel like that just generally ruins the vibe. So, that's what I'll do, and I can definitely see that people agree with that, kind of, because I, like, net lost, like, 20 subs yesterday, so I think people really didn't like it. So, I'm going to keep it up with the thumbnails, but in regards to editing, that's what I'm going to do from now on. So now that that announcement's out of the way, let's talk about what today's video is, what I think the problem is, all that kind of stuff. Today I'm going to be talking about the damage cap. Now I talked about this before, but I would like to talk about it again in more detail and a few months later, so it's less fresh on our minds, less painful of a change than back then. So let's get into it. First things first. A few months ago, KingsIsle introduced a thing in the game called a damage cap and a resistance cap. Basically, for PvE, at a certain point, there will be a soft limit, which means that damage will start decreasing over time, and then at a certain point, it reaches a hard limit, and it physically cannot go above that. So, in PvE, the soft limit is 150. That means every damage above 150 is less effective to the curve of 200. That means that to actually get to 200, you would need to have, like, an insanely high amount of damage, like 400 or 500, whatever. Now, at, say, 180, you would be doing around 165 or so, right? So basically that's the strength of the curve, and it prevents, or what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to prevent you from getting too high of a damage. In PvP, the cap is even lower. The cap is at, I believe, 125 or 100, one of the two, and every damage after that is at a curve. So you can see here, my damage is 138 right now. In PvP, it's 135 because the cap is at 125, I believe. So you can see the reduction is about 3%, so that's kind of a gist of what is going on. Now, what are my opinions on the system and what are my problems with the system? Well, I think in PvE specifically, it has absolutely no place being in the game, and there's a significant problem with it. And this is a comment I've gotten a few times, and I'll elaborate further now. People are always asking me, like, Noah, you definitely have the time on your fire. Why aren't you getting better stats, better gear, all that kind of stuff? Well, the answer is astonishingly simple. Is I feel like there's no point because I'm getting so much diminishing returns that it's just not worth it, right? So what I mean by this is my fire has a base damage of like 170, 175, which is really good. That's like a decent amount. It's reduced to 166, and I feel like any more damage I get than that would just be absolutely pointless. Like, yes, I could try to get these the Chompy Bronto mount to get that other set bonus that'd take my damage up to like 170 something. I could get the Dragoon set boosted even more, right? But what's the point? As I'm always asking myself. One guy in the comments was like, you're just too lazy. That just sounds like someone who's too lazy. No, it's someone who doesn't care. I mean, maybe you could say that's too lazy, but I don't care because what's the point? There's no point when the diminishing returns are that harsh. Now, this also affects wizards such as my death. I mean, look at my death, right? Level 140, 138 damage. Well, guess what? I only have the Vanguard gear. You know why? Because the second I reach 150 damage, I'm not going to want to get new gear at all because there's no point in getting new gear. 150 is fine, it's sufficient, and that means that I won't want to upgrade it. Now, I really hope that KingsIsle improves this gap, like increases the gap in the future. Like, it would be nice if after next world they release some new gear sets and then up the PvE cap to like 250. I think this would be really good if they keep doing that, because I think it would make the game at least worth it to improve. But as it stands right now, I am never going to get new gear again for the rest of the game. It's as simple as that. Unless there's like a really good improvement to my other stats like accuracy or resist or crit, whatever, then I might get it. But in regards to damage, no, I don't care. I'm fine with the gear I have right now, even though it's not even that good, just because there is literally no point in upgrading, in my opinion. So what would I do to fix this? There's two options. Is either remove the cap altogether, which is my preferred option. I think that KingsIsle made a mistake doing it in PvE, and I think it would be good if they removed it. Or B is raising the cap, and I think that this would also be the preferred one. I think it makes sense to be at, say, 225 right now with what stats are. I think that fire, like what I have, right, it shouldn't be that much of a height gap. I think that with what damages people are reaching right now, 175 should be where the curve starts instead of 150. I feel like that's a lot better because most schools can't even reach that. So I think that that would make a lot more sense for Fire and Storm capping their damage off so they don't have much more than that. At 150, it harms literally every single school. I mean, except maybe Ice. I think every school can get up to 150 damage. At least I think. I mean, my death definitely can get up to 150. All I need to do is upgrade the Dragoon gear, and I get like an extra 8 something damage, and then I upgrade like my pet and stuff. Like, I can get up there, right? It's just that I don't, and I'm too lazy to. But specifically because of that. Let's go into the counter argument, because I feel like the counter argument is kind of fair. And it's important to note, is that KingsIsle did this for a reason. And the reason is that the damage was getting too high. The reason why they limited it is so that the numbers don't just keep going up and up and up, because the problem is that eventually the damage calculation, all that, it'll get to a point where the numbers are just super inflated. Then they're going to have to account for that in future bosses. Like at some point they're going to have to make bosses that average like 80,000 health, which just isn't what they want to do, I'm pretty sure. So that is why they introduced the cap to begin with. They also wanted to make sure that wizards weren't getting too powerful, like up in the 200s of damage and stuff like that. I would like to personally, I'd like to argue against this. I think that it's not good from a game design perspective if you have to put a band-aid on something. This has always been my opinion, but people for some reason, and game designers, all that, I mean normal people as well, instead of fixing an issue, they like to put a band-aid on the issue. They like to temporarily solve the issue, and beyond that, they like to create problems for themselves, which they then need to solve, right? Without thinking ahead. So for example, I personally, and I've said this in the past, I think the Dragoon gear is too powerful for a lot of wizards. You go from, in most wizards, 100 to 120 damage to 150 easily, plus other amazing stats. Like back in the level 100s, you had to actually sacrifice a few stats to get up to 120 damage, right? My balance has like 106, I think, and if I had a better pet, I could get him up to like 115, and I could get him higher than that, but I wouldn't because I don't want to sacrifice my other stats like power pip chance, accuracy, all that. But the problem is the second we reach level 130, and the second I can do the catacombs, instantly I could probably get up to 140, 150 damage if I wanted to, and that's what I would do. And I think that's a real problem, is it removes school identity. I mean, this is a completely different argument, but it removes school identity, and I think that that is a problem for the game that they tried to fix by adding a damage limit option. And this would try to make it so that certain schools didn't get as much bonuses from it. The reason why it is 150 right now is because most schools can reach 150 damage. So they wanted to make that kind of the soft cap where most of the lesser damaging schools can't get beyond that too much. But as a fire player, this is a problem. But that's really it for today. I wanted to go over that. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the damage cap. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Whatever. As I said, I'm going to cut this down, but I'm going to cut it down significantly less. So let me know in the comments as well if I did a better editing job. I'm going to try to do my thumbnail, all that kind of stuff. You know the gist, whatever. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, you can check out my Patreon if you want to support me financially, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.